do things for this city to make it move forward. We ask you to be with the people and be with the families at these times of troubles and the times that we're struggling to make it through. It seems like there's something that comes up daily, and Lord, we just ask you to put your hand on us as a city and as this country. Yes. We ask you to reach out to our first responders, keep them safe, Lord, in Christ's name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Robbins.
Here.
Councilmember Washington.
Here.
Councilmember Justice.
Here.
Councilmember Gant.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
And Mayor Willis.
Okay, you have the packet that was sent to you in the email. First thing is approval of the minutes from the last council meeting held on September 21st, 2020. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Have a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Can I have a second? No. Motion and a second. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And that is approved. No old business, so we'll be moving to new business. First thing is permission to submit pre-applications for the 2021 to the FAA on behalf of the Wetumpka Municipal Airport for projects associated with the rehabilitation of T-Hangar Taxiway, aircraft apron, and fuel farm remediation. Ms. Weldon.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, let me introduce to you Jordan Russell. Jordan is with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood. They are our new engineer of record that we chose last year through the selection process as dictated by ALDOT. So I'm going to turn it over to Jordan to tell you how we will be applying for this application this year, how much we're asking for, how much we have already, and what we will be asking them to do in this project.
I appreciate it. I'll say this off so I can hear me a little bit better. But I just want to start by saying I appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I'm a Wetumpka resident myself, so it is a blessing to be able to work with the community that I care a lot about, me and my family. So I appreciate that. And again, like Lynn said, this is for the 2021 pre-application for federal funding for some projects at the airport. And this year, we've met with ALDOT. We're actually going to be pursuing two separate projects, as you mentioned. The first is what we're calling the T-Hangar Taxiway rehabilitation. And so if you've been out to the airport, you know there's a bunch of T-Hangar buildings and there's some pavement that's not in great shape around those buildings. And so with as many clients, tenants as y'all have, it's important that we get that pavement rehab so they're able to move freely around the airfield. So that's the first project we're going after, and the total project cost for that one is close to $480,000. And so the way the funding works in this case is it's 90% federal funding, 5% state, and 5% local match. And so the local part for that project would be $24,000 roughly. And so that would be the first project, and that's our number one priority right now is that taxiway. The second one you mentioned, the apron and the fuel farm remediation project, is roughly $200,000. And so again, it's the same funding, 90% FAA, 5% state, 5% local match. And so that would put the total for the local close to $10,000 for that project. That being said, there is some, legislation in DC that has potential of being passed that could provide some stimulus money for the airport. And so there's a chance this could be 100% federal, which would mean that y'all wouldn't have any local match. But that being said, the airport's been diligent in saving up their entitlement money. The airport gets, I think it's $150,000 a year that they're able to save up through the FAA, and that money would go to these projects, and that's close to $400,000, I believe. And so, and again, unfortunately, it's not that money sits in the Wetumpka bank account. The FAA holds that money, and they use it for projects in this area. So hopefully, at least we should be able to get that first project given our entitlement funding, and we look forward to getting that one. So hopefully everything will go well, we could potentially even get 100% funding, so it's exciting. But does anybody have any questions for me?
So that is a 5% match on the second one I heard you say. Was that the same on the first? I missed that.
I'm sorry, the first 5% was $24,000. It's a larger project, so the obviously 5% is a little bit more. But the second was $10,000. So total, I mean, you're looking at, if both projects came through and they were standard funding, I mean, $34,000 would be the local match. And that's what this resolution that y'all are looking at today basically says, that y'all would agree to pay the match, you know, if the FAA allocates these funds for these projects.
All right, let me get a motion and then we'll have discussion if anybody has it. Do we have a motion to move forward? This is just pre-application, right, Ms. Weldon? It's not
That's
spending
correct.
any funds?
That is correct. This is just
All right,
pre-application.
so we don't have to hold it over. Can I get a motion to submit a pre-application?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I have a question. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
You was talking pretty fast back there.
I apologize.
You mentioned about, go back up to the $480,000. That's federal. You mentioned $480,000.
Yes, sir, that's the total project cost.
Oh, okay.
So that would be 100%, 480,000. I've got a breakdown, I can tell you exactly.
And you said 90% of that would be federal funds.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. On your, you're talking about airport improvements. And I looked on the back here on this map, and you have it color coded for the different things you're going to do. If I'm getting ahead of myself, stop me. But,
No, that's correct.
okay. You're going to eliminate the taxiway direct access. Why in 2024? Why are you doing that?
That's an excellent question. I mean, it kind of is counter to logic. You know, you'd imagine you've got a nice apron in the middle and you'd like to have a direct connection. There's two problems. The first one is there's actual federal guidance and the advisory circulars that you cannot have a direct connection from an apron to your main runway, because you want people to have to make a turn so they don't accidentally get on the runway from the apron. It's a safety feature, so that's number one. And the second is actually what's considered a high-risk intersection point. You're not supposed to have a connection within the middle third of a runway. Obviously, you know, if the plane's coming into lands, you know, and they're touching down, they're going to be traveling faster through that middle third. So you don't want to have any sort of, you know, incursion point. So you try to push your connector to the two outer thirds to also limit, you know, I guess your risk in terms of accidents. So that's two. And again, that's in the year 2025. So that's got, you know, that's subject to considerable change depending on the needs of the airport.
No, 2025 is an access road rehabilitation.
So that may be the old sketch. I apologize.
That's okay. We're with y'all. That answers the question. I mean, about the taxiway there. Now, you also mentioned up here about on the 22, year 22.
Yes, sir.
Removal of the T-hangers. Why?
I think Lynn may be able to answer that a little better than me, but to my understanding, they're not in great shape. I want you to probably speak a little more than me.
Yeah, Councilman Washington, when we're talking about tearing those two hangars down, we're not talking about the new ones towards the end of runway 927. We're talking about the two old hangars, the old original hangars. One is just a roof and basically a pole barn, and the other one is, Julie and I really don't even like to lease it anymore because it is literally strapped to the ground with cables. And it shifts when we have hard winds. Those have just served their purpose. They need to be torn down, and that we need something else to replace them.
How many are there?
There are, to one section, well, there are 10 in each one, but one is what we call plain port, a pole barn with a roof. And the other one is actually 10 T-hangers. Some of them are enclosed, some of them don't have doors, but they're 10 total. But we do rent them because we have a, you know, waiting list of about 20 people. So we go ahead and rent them, but we do tell them that they have to have insurance, and we do make sure and verify that they do have that insurance. And that they're at their own risk and then.
you also mentioned about, 10, new T-hangers in 2022.
Yes, and that would be down at the other end where we have already the existing T-hangers. When we planned that years ago, before I even came on board, they built those T-hangers. I was actually working for the engineer at that time. And they left a spot for a future T-hanger buildings for expansion. And so what we would be doing is, now that we have those paid off, which we do, we would be going now and building the new T-hanger.
And we'd also be pursuing what's called a 50-50 state grant. Typically, those would have to be funded just from the airport. The FAA doesn't fund T-hanger buildings, but the state does. And so we'd be pursuing a 50-50 where they, 50% state, 50% local for that project.
You mean local, you mean the city?
I do.
How much money we gonna obligate the city for?
I mean, this is, again, subject, and y'all, again, as Lynn said, y'all have already paid off your other buildings, and so this will be, it's a good investment, but.
Okay.
They would have to be designed, and then they would have to be bid, and I don't know what that cost would be. I think Jordan.
No, it depends on, it kind of varies year to year depending on the demand.
Cost of materials. Okay,
Yes.
okay. I think that's. See if I have another question of it. Now, I don't know what you're proposing to do. Is it just the T-hangers, or what else are you planning on doing? Because it's talking about for airport improvement under line number 1. What else are you planning on doing out there at the airport besides T-hangers?
Well, I mean, this is our, the
Okay.
5-year plan.
Yeah, don't get confused with what we're asking for tonight and the other thing that you're looking at. They're two separate things. Jordan just wanted, with a new engineer, what we asked them to do was to come in and assess the airport and to give us a 5-year plan so that we can make sure that we're doing what needs to be done over a 5-year period. What we're asking for tonight is strictly for the 2021 year, which is to rehabilitate the asphalt around the taxiway, the T-hangers, and in one project, and then in the second project to do the same to the apron and remediate the old fuel farm. Remember, we built a new fuel farm earlier last year, and so now we have to take the old fuel farm and we have to remediate that and get rid of that properly per the ADM guidelines. And so that's all that we're talking about right now. But we wanted you to see what the plan was over the next 5 years. Because next year when we come back, you'll see that we're asking for what you see is 2022.
All right, thank you.
And Jordan can address this, but ALDOT and the FAA all like for you to have, in fact, they insist on you having a 5-year plan so that they also know what is coming forward.
Because they'll start to allocate funds several years in advance.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is $480,000 for the pre-application, 90% federal, 5% state match, and then, of course, we would match 5% if we get it. So we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, so motion and a second. All in favor of submitting the pre-application, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that has passed. Second, under new business, permission to request quotes and develop downtown parking area. Mr. Barrett?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We've been working with a consulting firm to develop engineering plans for the old recycling center. It's got these 2 concrete slabs now at the end of Company Street by the barber shop. What we're proposing to do is demo the 2 concrete slabs, take them out, put in stormwater infrastructure that we need there, and make that a gravel parking lot for downtown access downtown. So the preliminary engineer's estimate of probable cost is $46,645 to complete that work. So what I'm asking for tonight is permission to receive quotes, on the development of that, and then in the event they're less than 50,000, permission to proceed with that development with everything else that we have going on downtown.
All right, let's get a motion and a second, and we'll have discussion. Do we have a motion to move forward?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion?
I talked to, the chamber today and, wanted to make sure that Main Street and the chamber, we're all on the same page. And of course, one of the main things they hear is with the renovations is that we took parking places away, which they should. It's one of the things that they're looking for agreement on. And of course, we're looking at the-
And as part of the outdoor project, part of their phasing and traffic control, they're gonna close down Company Street totally for a period of 3 to 4 months. So this is part of our remediation there, allowing people to park there and get to downtown to still keep our businesses going while we do that project there, the construction project. So
Any idea on how many spots this would be?
35 to 45, depending on where we get rock and hill and that kind of stuff.
And this is a permission to get quotes. Can we vote on the
Let's do
50,000, or that would have to be held over?
Let's do a
right?
motion to permission for the quotes,
Mhm.
and at the next meeting, we'll talk
Yeah,
about,
we'd have to hold that over unless we suspended the rules.
we'll grab a motion on that.
So we'll do a permission to request quotes on this. Any other discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That too has passed. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Any announcements? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank y'all for being here.
Who had the baby? Pink bow.
Oh, sorry.